Welcome to this webinar today, sponsored by the BYU Management Society. I'm Rixa Oman. I'm Executive Director of the Society. I'll be your moderator today. We're glad you can join us. And we're very pleased to have Crystalee and Ryan Beck here presenting on the 5 principles they follow in supporting each other's professional goals. Let me do a little housekeeping first. Know that the audio portion of the presentation can be heard through the speakers on your computer, or if you decide that you're not getting a good sound, you may call in, and you should have a call-in information on the screen panel to the right of your screen. During the presentation, all the participants, or attendees, excuse me, will be muted. So that way you can see and hear us, but we can't hear you, and that makes a much more clear presentation for all of us. Many of you asked questions while you're registering, and we've reviewed these and found them very interesting. I know that Crystalee and Ryan used those as they were planning their presentation today. We'll try to respond to them during the call, and though we can't address each one, they have helped us to direct it. Also, please notice that there's a little chat button on your controls. At any time, please feel free to send us a little message or a comment or a question, and we'll try to respond to some of those as we can during the presentation as well. Okay, now let me introduce today's speakers. Oh, there we go. So Crystalee Beck is, I love her description, mama bear of 2 cute cubs. Crystalee's worked as a flight attendant, award-winning marketer, a published researcher, adjunct professor, and she's now a happy mamapreneur. And you will enjoy her explanation of what that means and where that term came from. She earned a degree in communication from BYU. Years later, she had her first baby, graduated from Weber State in a master's program in communication, and has worked in several different places in global sales and marketing. And she's going to tell you the story of how she decided to, rather than climb a complicated corporate ladder, she would create her own. And that's what she did. And it's this story that she's going to tell us today, and how she and her husband have found a way to work their 2 careers together. Passing it forward, she's co-founded the Mama Ladders, which we'll also hear about. And she feels most alive running mountain trails and exploring new places. Let me introduce her husband, Ryan. Ryan grew up with great examples of women who've been pioneers in their industries. And he'll tell us that. He served a mission in Nashville and then landed in a professional track that fit his interests after some deciding, earned a bachelor's degree and then a master's degree of an MRed from the University of Utah. We'll hear more about his things, but I love that he enjoys ultimate frisbee, outdoor scene, and making his 2 toddlers giggle. You'll find that they're devoted parents, but devoted to each other and devoted to helping each other. So now let me turn the time over to our presenters. Just 1 minute here, and let me do that. Okay. Go ahead. We're going to see your screen now, Crystalee. You'll need to share your screen with us.
Okay. Let's see. Show my screen. Okay.
And then is it showing the whole thing, or do you want just this to show up?
There we go. We've got it.
Cool.
Thank you. Go ahead. And you could put it on presentation too.
Okay. Okay, let's see. Sorry, Rick, I'm making sure I pressed the right thing for presentation. Yeah. Is that, presentation for the
slideshow and then start. There you go.
Okay, excellent. There you go.
All right. Please take it away.
Okay, well, thanks for that introduction. Thank you. And we are really pleased to be here, and we want to throw out the caveat from the start. We are not the experts. We're just sharing what's worked for us, and every couple is different, every family's different. But if there are a few things you can take away that help you, then that's great. I know I personally have gotten a lot out of watching these webinars myself, and feel really honored that we can be on here today. So, as a quick icebreaker, I want to introduce Ryan, and he'll introduce me. You've heard kind of our formal bios, but Ryan is a back flipper, and I knew this before I married him, but he For years and years, his family goes to Lava Hot Springs, and they have an Olympic high dive. And even when we were dating, I went with them, and he does a backflip off the Olympic high dive. And every time it makes my heart stop, but he's really good at it, and he loves doing it. So he's a backflipper, and he's also a builder. And you can see this picture of him remodeling our first house, and he'll talk about that later. But he just loves doing projects, and he's very good with his hands. So that's Ryan.
And Crystalee is very adventurous. Her happy place is up in the mountains, and she loves bringing people together. And one of the things that she did towards the end of her undergrad experience at BYU was Operation Y Flag, which she dubbed herself, and she carried out herself with a couple friends. And it wasn't like a BYU sanctioned event or anything, but it was something that really brought a lot of people together in a cool and unique way to show patriotism, and kind of her experience at BYU is summed up really well in this, as she really brought people together to make the Y into a giant human flag with different shirts, different colors of shirts and fabric. So that's Crystalee kind of in a nutshell. She loves to bring people together and kind of do outrageous things. So.
And kind of a side note on that, I didn't realize till we got up there how blasphemous it would be to have people wearing red on BYU's Y map, but anyways.
Which I'm really proud of, because we have a friendly family rivalry. I went to the U and she went to BYU. And
we'll get to that. So okay, so here's our family, and you look at this picture and we're all smiling and it looks great, but it was actually a really hard picture to get. Our Lydia now is she's 3.5, and Bryson this was 6 months ago, so he's just about 2. But
there's like little clues in this picture that we don't have it all put together. We're doing the best we can. I mean, my shoulder's up. I'm holding Lydia with my shoulder as best I can, and Lydia's just having a blast. She's got sticks in her hands because
she wouldn't put down.
She would not put them down, but it's characteristic of what she likes to do. And Bryson's finally looking at the camera person, and so out of the many pictures that we took, this one was the keeper, and we just feel fortunate that we have a happy little family. But don't think that just because you have this one little snapshot of us that's how our life is. It's just like anybody else. We have our complexities and challenges that we try to navigate, and hopefully we can kind of share our experience in doing so.
Well, and one more thing I want to say about this too is that when it comes to the topic of family and career, like, it can get messy, and reading through your questions, like, we saw a lot of common themes of just it's a struggle. It is, and we're going to share with you our own struggle with it, and kind of some things that we've learned to work through some of those struggles. But having children for me personally has been very motivating. To figure out how I can work in a way that fits my motherhood, because they're the little pride and joy of our lives, and I refuse to miss their childhood. They matter too much to me, but at the same time, I have my passions too. So we'll get to that. So that's our family. And briefly, we're going to do the quickie version for you here. You already heard this, so a little bit in Rick's.
Well, just a little background. My experience, I attended 4 different universities before I finally got my degrees, and that is a tribute to everybody has a unique path, and I had a hard time with that as I watched other people go through their career chosen fields and go really fast, and I kind of took a little bit of the long road, but I felt like it was worth it as I was able to explore all the different options and know this is what I wanted to do with my career and with my field of expertise. So I attended the Weber State University received an undergrad in construction management, and then jumped right into a master's program after completing that in real estate development at the University of Utah. I can almost hear the hisses and boos from the BYU crowd, but it was a great experience, and I really enjoyed it, and I was able to. We had our first kid, Lydia, towards the end of as I was completing my master's program, and I enjoy a variety of different things. I remodeled our first home and had a great time doing that.
And where are you now?
Oh,
there you go.
Sorry, I couldn't see the other side of the slide. And currently I'm at a construction company / developer, Bonneville Builders, and I have a wide variety of experiences there where I get to kind of tap into my diversity of passions, and I really enjoy it.
So for me, I went to BYU Provo, and that's where we met. And then my first job out of college was as a flight attendant. So while we were dating, I was in flight attendant training, and I did that for a few years, and we traveled quite a bit. But I would be sitting up in the jump seat after serving pretzels, peanuts, or cookies over and over and over again. I'd go, when I had a few minutes, I'd sit and write essays. And I realized, you know, if writing really is my passion, I need to be spending more time doing it, and I might as well be getting paid to do it. As much as I love traveling, like I wanted to do more of that. So I decided to get a master's degree, and I went to Weber State. Ryan had finished his program there, so I started there in a master's program, and as he said, we had our first baby the semester that we both graduated, and I worked for a global marketing and sales company, and I worked there when we had our baby, and for a year I was kind of juggling full-time work and being a mom, and Ryan was mostly the stay-at-home parent because he was in school, so he'd go to night classes. But anyways, after that, I ended up being laid off, which was actually a really big blessing because I was trying to figure out how do I make this work, and working full-time for me, it just wasn't working for me. And because of that, I had some time and space to decide what I wanted to do with myself, and so I started my first company, Professional Communication Consulting, and here is a little bit about what we do. So I have a talented team of writers, and we help business leaders tell their story. So in the past year and a half, it started just me, but it's grown and grown, and work with several incredible companies and amazing clients, and have 8 writers, and we do things like write blog posts and case studies and some email campaigns, and we help them tell their story. It's something I really love to do, and so that's my business. In the past 9 months or so, I kept thinking about how much joy having this part-time business, and I'll talk more about my schedule later, but how using my talents and passions part-time, how it really fits the way I want to live my life. And I realized that I kind of stumbled onto something really special, and I wanted to be able to share that with other moms, and that's where the Mama Ladder came from. A dear friend and I co-founded it. We just launched our website. You're welcome to check it out. And we offer business training and resources to help moms thrive at the intersection of mamahood and entrepreneurship. So with that, let's get into the meat here. So that was kind of our introduction, but how the heck does it work with businesses and babies, and how does it work? And for us, here are 5 things that we've learned, 5 ways that we can support each other.
So I'll kind of walk through this. 1, we see each other as partners, and 2, we encourage each other's passions. 3, we trust we'll find a way together, and 4, we go at our own pace, and 5, we create life work dynamics that really work for us. And that's kind of an outline of where we're going here.
So we're going to go into each of these individually. So first one, okay. So we see each other as partners.
So Crystalee tells me that I'm unique in this regard, and I don't really. I mean, I know a lot of good guys that do this as well, but I have had somewhat unique examples in my life. That my mom was very involved as a state legislator, and then also my sister, who also attended the U, put a little plug in there, and got her degree in architecture. She's also been very much a leader and an equal in most regards to working with other people, and she's and those kind of examples that I've had have, I guess, have influenced my opinions or my perspective on how we treat each other. And so at first I think Crystalee wasn't super comfortable with some of these things, but we do see each other as partners, and we really work together to find reasonable solutions.
Okay, so as that kind of like the foundation, we see each other as partners, that both of our goals matter, and you can see here just timing worked out. We both ended up graduating from our graduate to programs the same week, and that semester we had our first baby, so it was really exciting. It was also stressful, and we were exhausted, but I've always really appreciated that Ryan didn't feel like his goals were more important than mine, but that mine mattered too. So we've been partners that way, and I think an important
the big piece of this was that when, like any partnership, like a business partnership, when you partner together, you're joining your assets, and you utilize each other, and in our case, we were joining our bank accounts. I think that's a very common analogy, but we did it. We joined our bank accounts, and here we are together making these decisions, financial decisions, and it wasn't just me making the financial decision. I expected Crystalee to be very involved in our financial picture and understanding what our goals were and how we were going to get there. So to do that, that's a hard thing, I think, for a lot of families, is understanding, like, and I've heard it said, like, that it's the #1 cause of divorce is finances. And as newlyweds, and with my business acumen, like ability to like figure that stuff out, I started like putting together Excel spreadsheets to determine what our ledger was, what our income and expenses were, and putting together financial spreadsheets. And it was very time intensive for me, and it was actually kind of difficult to get it all together into something that was usable. And that's when we stumbled upon mint.com, and I think a lot of people are familiar with this stuff, but it was a very big deal once we could see visually. Crystalee didn't want to just see it in a spreadsheet. She wanted to see some visuals or something that was a little bit more meaningful, and Mint was a very good resource for us to be able to turn it into a game, essentially. And at the end of the day, Crystalee could go, this is what our net worth is, and this is how we're spending money, this is what's going on in our financial picture.
And
Did you have something you want to add?
So as he said, Mint is an app that you can use on your phone, and it's free, and it's very secure. It's built by Intuit, so mint.com has given us a lot of transparency so that we can see how the other is spending, and you really can't talk about career and family without talking about money. And so, I mean, we really take on family finance as a team, and Mint is one of the biggest tools that we use to do that. and I want to make sure we talk about, so there's 3 things I wanted to make sure we talked about, the role of women, family finance, and then also gender roles.
I think this came up a lot in the questions, is like, how do you balance all these tasks and all these roles and responsibilities? And I kind of just call it, like, so especially when it comes to like laundry and dishes and changing diapers, I just call those adult responsibilities. And I've heard it said by millennials, it's called adulting. You know, you do the dishes, you do the laundry, you figure out your taxes and insurance and all that kind of stuff. And for us, it's a partnership. It's not just my job to come up with our best insurance options. I expected Crystalee, she has some background in her family with understanding how to navigate the health insurance world. And so she's responsible to figure out what our health insurance plan looks like and if we're getting the right coverage. And that's a very complex issue, but she figures it out and does a great job. But that's part of our like transparency as we work together. I review and look at things, but then there are other things that I'm more specialized in. Where Crystalee mentioned like being a homemaker, like while she was working and I was in school, I did all the laundry and the dishes, and for during the day I was tending to our newborn, and I didn't really see anything wrong with that. And it was just part of being an adult and part of being a responsible parent and provider or caregiver for our family. So.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, and that is that I love that you're partnering in so many different ways and that you've found ways to do that. Some people struggle with those. Did you have examples of this through your own parents, or was it just something that you realized you needed to do, that partnership? And because we learn different ways.
Because no, I don't think my dad has ever done the laundry. I know that he's done it a couple times because, yeah, he put gasoline-soaked jeans in the laundry one time, and I remember that kind of ruined the laundry machine. But he didn't really do a lot of that stuff. It was more, I think I just recognized that a lot of it is my personality. I see a need and I fill the need. But it isn't that way now necessarily. That I expect. So Crystalee's a recovering laundry doer, right? I don't know how to say that. But.
Well, he's much better at that stuff than I am. Like the domestic affairs, like hands down. Like he's better at dishes, he's better at laundry. He's just better at it than I am. But now I'm at home much more than he is. So it's my job now because I'm the one that's there to take care of it. So I'm there with the kids and I'm there to clean up, and it's been it's an adjustment for me because for so many years I was working full time, but I see there's been a lot of value in us both having the role as a breadwinner and as the main one holding down the fort at home, because we can kind of relate to each other.
Yeah, I think it helps us both. That we can each kind of pick up wherever the need is, and we respect each other's roles, I guess, or our responsibilities because we've each done them. Yeah, it's just helpful. It's just helpful when you have.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's a challenge in a lot of marriages to become that partnership and working together. Appreciate that.
Okay, well, we'll go to the next one. That one went a little longer than planned, but okay, so we encourage each other's passions. And in this section, we're going to talk about two stories of how we've encouraged each other and how we counsel with each other, even though we do have different interests, where I'm more communication, he's more real estate. So in this picture, you see a picture of us with our young baby, 6 months old, when I got to share findings from my master's thesis on KSL5 on the news. And this couldn't have happened without Ryan encouraging me. So I chose to do a thesis, and I ended up having to write it during maternity leave. So that last semester, when, like I mentioned earlier, when we were exhausted, I was writing my master's thesis, and Ryan was encouraging me, and I'd been accepted to present it at this international conference, which was quite an honor, but I felt really unsure, like, is it okay for me to be doing this? I'm a brand new mother, like, what are people going to think? Like, is this allowed? And I went through a lot of those questions, and I remember talking to him and him saying something like, would you regret it if you didn't present this thesis? And I said, yes, I would. And he said, well, then let's do it. Let's go do it. And
the fact of the matter is that I see Crystalee as like a shining star, and she's very bright and very capable, and I want her to be able to share her light with those around her. And this was actually a fairly good cause. And gratitude in the workplace was the topic of her thesis, and she went to the conference and she presented to an audience of academics from around the world and was honored with the best theoretical paper.
Yeah.
And she was able to share insights that a lot of people wanted to hear and needed to hear, and I felt I'm proud of her and her accomplishment, and I think that it was worth every piece of energy that it took to get her there and to share what she found with the world. And I mean BYU talks about this, right? I mean, like, you go forth to the world, right, to like do this stuff, and that's part of what she was doing. And it was a little bit of a challenge because there were people that kind of were, you have a brand new baby, why are you leaving? And it was just a week-long thing. It wasn't like we were gone for a super long amount of time, but it was a sacrifice and it was a challenge to put the thesis together and to present it. But it was well worth it, and I just always want her to be able to shine in whatever she does. So
Isn't he great?
it was just worth it. And
well, and I just want to point out, like, where it's not, I don't know, I think for women we often don't want to like tout, like, I didn't want to say, oh, I got this award, like, I'm not going to say that about myself, but where he's been so encouraging and supportive to me, like, he points out to me and helps me recognize my own value, and I think that's something that we can do as partners and spouses, is say, hey, you're really good at that. That was a job well done, and so he's really put it to action. So do you want to talk about how I...
Okay, so Crystalee kind of she does the same thing for me. So we would, she supports me in my passions in that I would be talking about real estate or construction, and sadly, yeah, it would kind of like fly over her head, and I try to simplify it to a point that she was able to like engage in the conversation. But I think every husband-wife pair that is specialized in something may have difficulties communicating at great depths on their specialization. But Crystalee, when an opportunity arose to gain a client that had a specialization in real estate, she jumped all over it, and she won them over with her keen interest in real estate. And
well, and for me, I was like, I might as well get paid to learn about what my husband's interested in, so I can like have a conversation with him.
Yeah. So I felt very fortunate, and it's been a very good client for her, and it's also been good for me in our relationship because she understands a lot more about what a cap rate is and what construction costs are and how things kind of all work together. And so it goes both ways. As I have shown her the encouragement, she has also reciprocated that. So.
Okay, so we'll go to number 3. So these are our little kids at a park by our house, and for us, this reminds us of a story I'll let Ryan tell, but it represents for us that we trust that we'll find a way together.
So, let's see. Can you set the stage a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So at the time, you can see our boy, who is about 6 months, and our girl is 2, and recently, I had been, about a year earlier, I'd been unexpectedly laid off, and at the time Ryan was in transition from grad school to work, and so
remodeled the house.
And he was remodeling the house, so yeah, he was working very hard.
The other remodels?
I don't think so. Okay. So you were like, I mean, knee deep in dust, and I mean, working really hard every day, but we were kind of in this.
Crystalee was kind of in this transition of like being a little bit thrust into a full-time homemaker, which before she was kind of, I was subsidizing it quite a bit, and she was looking for outlets, professional outlets.
And so just really, just to finish, like setting the scene. So we've gone to the park as a family, and we're like pushing our kids in the swings, and I was kind of at a point. I'd been out of the workforce for a year, and I really wanted some kind of way to work, but I didn't want to go back to full time, and I didn't want to put my kids in daycare. And so
this is kind of like the beginning of Create Your Own Ladder and the Mama Ladder, and that Crystalee started to navigate, well, I don't really want to go back to the full-time corporate scene, but I want to have this professional outlet, and so, and here's the other variable, is that I like to see anything that we do to be self-sustaining and the full cost considered. And so she came to me with a plan
at the park.
At the park, because that's where you find the time to talk to each other. And she said, do you want to explain your plan?
Well, I said, even if I start small, like even if it's twice a week for 4 hours, I have to have focused time to be able to write. Writing something you can't be interrupted every 30 or 60 seconds like you are with little kids, and so I knew I needed some dedicated time.
So she had clients like starting to reach out to her.
But I didn't feel like I could do it.
But she didn't know yet that they were clients, and she didn't quite know how. She just knew that they needed work done, and she knew how to do it, but she didn't really know how to get the time, carve out the time to do it. And so she said, what if I get a babysitter for a few hours a week, and I can carve out that time? And I said, okay, it has to be self-sustaining. So whatever the costs, the full costs associated with this, they have to be paid for. If you can at least break even, then go for it. And I was supportive. That was kind of my requirements, is that it was self-sustaining, and we weren't going into debt to start this business, but that it could be self-sustaining, and so that's kind of how that started. But it was us. This is kind of our process for navigating and figuring out what we communicated, what our desires were, and as we were open to each other's ideas. And supportive, even very supportive, I guess. It worked out. We were able to find a way, and sure enough, the expenses started to get paid for with the income that she was earning, and now she's well ahead of that, and it's working out quite well. So.
And at first, I mean, there was part of me that was like, this is a little gutsy, because you have to remember, we were both basically unemployed at the time. So I mean, financially we were in a strain. We were trying to like keep our costs down. But I was like, you know, I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to make enough not only to pay the babysitter, but to make it worth my time. Because I'm not just going to work just to hand that money straight to a babysitter. Like, I have to have something for me too, for it to be worth my time. So, but I guess for me, one of the big points of this, that we trust we'll find a way together, that was a hard time in our marriage. That like figuring out what are we going to do, who's going to be the new breadwinner, how, I mean, just that transition was tricky and it was hard, and there were tears and I mean lots of discussions, and but I'm so grateful now that we had that time, because it really brought us together, and it helped me trust him, and hopefully help him trust me, but it helped me trust him that we're going to do what we can for our family, and we can figure it out together.
I think we may have glossed over this a little bit. It's a little non-traditional for you. I graduated with my master's, and then I went and bought a home and remodeled it. That's like a little bit underutilizing what my education was. But that was part of Crystalee, just trusting that I was tapping into my passion, and that house has doubled in value in the time that since we purchased it, and that has worked out great. And I think that the trust, it took some time for her to recognize that we can take some risks right now, and they will have returns if we, but just trust each other. And I afforded her the same sort of respect and trust when she said, I want to go start this business, and so it was kind of both of us working towards that.
So I hope you're going to explain to us what your schedule looks like now, and how you made that work for you.
Yeah, sure. So, and were you talking to me, Rixa?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that
probably fits in really well with this. We go at our own pace. So I'm going to just tie that right into this, Rixa. So for us, going at our own pace means that we don't have to do things the way that everyone else does them. We can. Which
is a very liberating idea, and I know that it's hard when you have family and friends that expect you to do it their way or some other way. But if you can create your own way that works, and go at your own pace, I think that really helps.
So to get back to your question earlier about my schedule, so I decided that for me, a pace that would fit and would work would be me working part-time. So I started off doing, I think it was 2 afternoons a week, like 3 or 4 hours at a time, having a babysitter. And then little by little, as I got more clients, I added more hours. So it'd go from like maybe 8 hours to 10 hours to 15 hours. And for me, I decided the cutoff for me is 20 hours a week, and it's different for every mom. But for me, that was where I felt comfortable to have like a balance between working on my passions and helping my clients, and also having time with my family. So every week is a little different, but for the most part, the mornings are dedicated to my children and to taking care of myself. So in the mornings, I always try to do 4 things before noon. This is kind of my happiness formula. So for me, I play with my kids. I try to spend time outside, and hopefully there's good weather to do that. I exercise and spend time with truth. So that could be scriptures, that could be inspiring books. But part of that, playing with my kids, I really focus on them. So that time between when we wake up, like, I don't know, it's different every day, let's say 7:30 to 8:30, somewhere in there, until 1 o'clock, that time is for me and them. So just this morning, I went and pushed them in my running stroller, and I actually fell down and got hurt. But but every morning I try to take them on some adventure outside. So we'll go to the park, or we'll go to the dinosaur park, or we'll go to the children's museum, um, and I really enjoy that time. It's like sacred to me. It's really special to me. So I don't plan meetings during the mornings. I don't take calls. I try really hard not to check my email. Like, I really try to focus on them.
And I think that one thing that Crystalee does is she prioritizes that time, and she makes sure that she does make time for herself and time for the kids. That she has this really high quality, typically, experience during those hours, and it has this really good effect where, well, you want to finish your schedule? So,
sure, yeah. So that's the morning, and then afternoons, 4 afternoons a week now, I have an amazing babysitter who comes to our house, and I did that intentionally because there's only so much time in the day, and I didn't want to spend 30 minutes every day packing them up to go to a daycare or to go to somewhere else. I wanted someone to come to us so that my kids can take naps in their own bed, they can eat our own food, they can be comfortable, and so it saves time, but it's also more efficient. So she comes to our house, and right now it's my work time. This is my work time right now. So she's home with them, and they're playing with her and having a great time. And the afternoon hours from like 1 to 5 or 1 to 6, depending on the day, I'm focused on whatever project or client I need to take care of that day, and that's how I want it to be, and I'm really, really happy with it. And it's funny, I genuinely feel like I get as much or more done during those 4 or 5 hours of work time than I did in 8 hours or 9 hours in the workforce. And there's been studies that support this, that there's so many distractions in the workplace, but because I really I get my time to play and my time to enjoy my kids in the morning, when I get to work and I sit down to write and focus, I'm ready to work. And so I'm not checking Facebook, I'm not being distracted. Like, I'm very dedicated to getting things done during that time. And to add to that, I either work I have a little office nook in our house, so I either work there, and I split the time between there and a shared office space that's in our town, so it's close by. It just takes me a few minutes to get there. So some days I go there when I just need to get away from my house and really like hunker down and focus. And then I go home and enjoy dinner with the family and put the kids to bed. And for me, it's really important to be there when they wake up and when they go to bed. And actually, with my kids, the ages they are, they both take naps. So that when the babysitter comes, I mean, I'm only actually really missing about 2 hours with them that they're awake, because they're sleeping for half the time that she's at our house. So that's how I've worked it out right now.
And this is with young kids. I think that everybody's going to be a little bit different, having older kids, or yeah, it's just a little different. So we do want to like emphasize that everybody's situation is going to be just a little bit unique, and you just find what works best for you. I know there are times that, so we talk about pacing, and we help each other pace. We're both runners, and I tend to start off a little fast in my run, and Crystalee's always kind of there when we run together, that she'll keep me at a proper pace to go the distance, the full distance, and that is very, very helpful when we both do that with each other. I think that Crystalee will have like infinity days sometimes, and well, I think, I don't know if anybody else uses that term, but it's a day that she has a task list that is never ending. And I kind of will question her, like, well, are you sure? It sounds like you're going to have an infinity day. There's no way that you're going to get all that done. But somehow she does a lot of the time. But how and when she does it, and is kind of this structure that has worked out well for her.
Well, and it's it's been important for me to have him point out, like, are you sure you can do that? Because I do tend to be one who thinks that I can do more than is humanly possible, and he's really helped me be better at it, and it's really important skill to have as a business owner, to be able to estimate and prioritize like how long something will take. And so he's helped me be much more realistic about pacing myself and
like looking back at her times, you know, that to run with that running analogy. She's looking back at her time, she's analyzing it and kind of recognizing what she could improve on, and so.
One question that just came in, and I think it fits with going at our own pace and finding our own way. Do you feel conflicts or dilemmas with LDS doctrine or LDS mainstream social culture? And how do you navigate that? What kind of pressures are you feeling, and how have you navigated those pressures?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting dichotomy, or like, because I think that the interpretation of those things has gone to one side, but for us, we feel like we are living the gospel as strongly as we know how to. When we pursue our financial passions, which lead to freedom and also giving back, and also just having the balance with our kids. And I don't know if you could see it in that picture, but our kids, we love our kids and they love us, and we really have a very strong relationship with them, and it's working. And I think that that's kind of attributable to our openness to just try different ways that work, and we do correct ourselves, and we correct to what we need to be doing, but for the most part we feel very attuned to what we feel like we should be doing, and it's worked very well for us.
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, well, we'll go to the next one, and these all kind of feed into each other. So next we have on here, we create life-work dynamics that fit us. So I always like to say that life comes before work, and for me, I mean, the core of our life is our family, and so so we really work hard to try to create a dynamic that works for us, and this is where part of the tagline for this webinar was "There's no one size fits all," and I'll let you talk more about that.
Well, if I were to just tell you, everyone that's listening, like exactly what to do, it would be like my eyeglass doctor saying, okay, everybody needs Ryan's prescription, and for that to work, it's adjustable, and so your prescription is going to be different than mine, and I think that people tend to try to just say, well, this worked for this person, so I'm going to do the exact same thing, and then they wonder why it's blurry, you know, and it doesn't always work that way. So you are a unique person, and
your family and your marriage is unique.
Yeah, and you find ways that you can mesh your passions with each other, and with your other major responsibilities and adulting, and you just make it fit as best you can. It's not always the case that you can just take somebody else's situation and repeat it. You have to kind of go through a process and a discovery process and a refining process, and it takes effort and it takes time, and it's a process.
So for me, for many, many years before I had children, and even before I was married, I remember, and this kind of goes back to the question on, do we feel conflict with LDS doctrine? So I remember being at BYU and studying and learning and being excited about my major and feeling this real internal conflict, that here I was preparing myself for a career, but the deepest desire of my heart was to be a mother, and I remember feeling like, how is that all going to work? And I did know, though, and I've known for a really long time, that when I became a mother, and now that I am one, that I'd want to have a place to use my professional skills. I worked really hard to acquire them. I put a lot of investment, not just of tuition, but also energy and mental power, and I mean, I put a lot of work into learning the things that I've learned, and for me, it's a spiritual journey. It really is. For me, I feel like the talents that I have and that we each have, that they're given to us by a Heavenly Father who loves us and knows us, and who knows what we're capable of in ways far beyond we can even imagine. And I really believe that. I believe that my abilities to help people tell their stories is something He's given me. And I feel like He's really guided me in this journey to be able to find a place that I can use those skills and also be really happy as a mother and as a wife. And it hasn't been easy. Like we've tried to be very authentic here, but hopefully you've been able to get a little sense of some of the struggle that we've had to get to this point where we've created something that works for our family. But for me, absolutely, I feel like I'm living what I believe, and I'm following Christ, and I'm doing it in a way that I feel like He's led me to do. And I wasn't planning on sharing that on this webinar, but that was a really good question, and I'll be transparent here and share with you that I've felt very strongly with the Mom Ladder. I felt very strongly. That's not something I just made up on my own. Like, I felt very much that I needed to share some of the things that I've learned about business, because it is complicated as a woman, and it is complicated as a mother, and it can be hard to, some moms have to work, some moms are single. I feel very fortunate. I have a great spouse who provides for us. But I realize there's a need for women to be helped out there.
And so as Crystalee gets into like the Mama Ladder, she's right now, she's basically she's launching that, and that's something that she's striving to give back. And I want to establish this other point, is that we're fortunate that we have like Alan Hall and like influential people in our life that are very active and very I think he's a state president or something right now, but he's been involved in the church, and he's also very supportive of Crystalee's direction and recognizing her talents and helping her navigate a way to do this. And so there's a little bit of like a there's some confidence that we gain from just some of the people that we interact with that allow us to continue to explore this route and not feel like we're doing something wrong.
Well, and even, it's not even necessarily a matter of allowing, but like supporting, but also like helping us realize like we have our agency and we get to choose. We get to choose how we want to do this marriage thing and this parent thing and career thing, like,
and how we want to like give back to the community and to the world that we have. Like we really are fortunate to have those examples of people that boost our confidence that it's okay to explore this route. And so I guess that's kind of what we're doing now, is we're kind of giving that back, that sharing that confidence that it's okay to explore.
And it's okay to be different. It's okay if you're
what some people would say is non-traditional, and I've been a non-traditional student my whole education experience, and I'm kind of comfortable in that sphere. I think it's good to be unique and good to be your own and to be your own best self. So I realized that, and I'm just going to briefly kind of sum this up a little bit, but I realized that for me the corporate ladder was not going to work for the way I wanted to be a mother, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with someone choosing to do that. There's nothing wrong with being, I say, play at home mama. That's great too. For me, it's all about creating your own ladder that fits you and that fits your life and fits the way you want to raise your kids. And it's not my place to, as Brian put it, prescribe what works for someone else. So, so for me, creating my own ladder allowed me to kind of have some role in both worlds, professional world and home life. And so you are welcome to check out our new website if you have interest in that. And so that's themamaladder.com. We have all kinds of things on there that can help you if you're interested. And with that, I want to make sure we give time for questions and answers. So we have a wonderful list that you sent in of questions. And Rixa, will you let us know what our time is for these?
Yeah, you've got just a few more minutes. I think you've answered a lot of them along the way as I read them too. One of the ones that just came in, and I think you just answered that, is how did you strengthen the skills needed to create your own business, and how did you find that idea? But I think what you did is take what you love to do and what you had done and said, how can I do this in a way that works with both my family and my desires to continue working? So you were able to fit your talents into that, and that's how you came up with your business, which I think is really great.
I think so. Crystalee, her education was very helpful for that, but having an experience in a corporate world, having that time at international marketing company was really helpful for her to gain an understanding of what her value was and how to like understand like what she could charge for her services that she was already performing at a corporate level, but all the managerial and all the overhead were taking the rest of that, and so she figured out a way to say, well, I can charge a discount to the client and still be able to make more than I'm making now.
So I would want to say with that I really did a lot of my own study about business, because business was a new thing for me. That wasn't my major. So I really the past 2 years, like I've really sought out different sources, and I've taken different courses, and I've gone to trainings, and I've sought out mentors, and I've really made it. Honestly, I feel like I'm in my own personal MBA, because I'm really learning as much as I can, so that I can make smart decisions, and I can work smart, and I can have a good experience for the writers on my team. So it's an ongoing learning process. I want to make sure that we do talk about childcare, because that came up again and again and again. And childcare is a very personal decision with you and your husband. For me, here are a couple tips for you that has worked for us, and I've explained some of my reasoning behind why I wanted someone to come to our house instead of go to a daycare. Nothing wrong with daycare. We did that for a period when I was working full-time, nothing wrong with it. But if you do want to have someone come to your home and you're not sure where to find them, I put up ads in Institute, and I also put up ads at a local university in the nursing department and education department because I figured I want like a nurse type of person and a teacher kind of person. And that's exactly the babysitters that we've had. Like right now, they're with this sweet, sweet woman who is a kindergarten teacher, and right now she's on summer break, and we love her, and she's so good with them, and that's worked out really well. So, and if you start where you are, I mean, if you just want to have 3 hours a week that you focus on a project that is important to you, or learning about business or whatever it is, you can do that. Just pick an afternoon, and that's great. I mean, just start where you are.
Any last words? You've got 15 seconds.
Oh. Like I have to say, that, like supporting each other. It's not always easy, but when you do trust each other, you're gonna figure it out. Like you can do it together.
Yeah. Adam and Eve Eve was a helpmeet to Adam, and so they were equal partners. And I think that the partnership idea is often kind of the fallback point that we want to make sure that's understood, is that we are partners and we're working together to figure out a way to live a fulfilling and wonderful life together.
I love that. Thank you. The fact that I mean, it's obvious that you are working together, and some great lessons we can all learn. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing things you've learned, for sharing ideas that will make us all think about our own situations and how we can improve our own partnerships, or improve the way we're balancing our own lives. So we really appreciate that. Hold on just 1 minute, and I'm going to share something with you. The only thing I wanted to remind our audience, a couple of things before we close. We do have a Women in Business blog, so we'd love to continue this conversation. I think there could be some great comments on this. So you could visit our Women in Business blog. It's byuwomeninbusiness.blogspot.com. And then our next webinar will be Christina Narvez, who's owner of she does consulting, and she's also an adjunct professor at the U of U. She's going to present on developing a personal strategy for life. I think this will be fascinating. Will be Wednesday, August 16th. There's a registration. And just a reminder that I will send out a link to this presentation for all of you to review and to share with others. So thank you so much again to Crystalee and Brian. It's been wonderful. And thank you for our audience for taking part in this today. It's been a great experience for all of us. Thank you.